What's up? Welcome back to another Frontend tutorial. My name is Ricard Torres. I'm a Senior Frontend Software Engineer at Centric, and today I want to show you how you can use Cypress for both end-to-end and unit testing. For years, I have been using Jest for unit testing, and it works great. It's fantastic, but why not maybe use Cypress for both? First of all, a little bit of introduction. What is Jest? Jest is a fantastic JavaScript testing framework. Works well, it's battle tested, it's fast, and the way of writing the test is very like grammar-like. It's like you write as in English and it works fantastically. And I love it, it's really something. But today this new player has come into play, pun intended. And then my question is why, if you're already writing your end-to-end test with this proper Cypress syntax, why don't you simply use the same syntax and same way of writing to also write your unit test? So you learn the tool once and use it for both, rather than having two frameworks or two ways of working. So, but first of all, what is unit testing, or what do you do with unit testing when it comes to JavaScript? Unit testing is aimed to test your pure functions. What is a pure function? Let me show you right now. So let me add a new file. So a pure function, like this one, function myName, which has name and then returns name, is a function that has no side effects. It's a function that if I run it 1,000 times with 1,000 different names, I always know what's going to return. Nothing can interfere with my logic, nothing creates any side effects, nothing changes the output, right? So this function is testable, and it's fantastic for that because, yeah, just testable. That's what you want, right? So when you write your JavaScript, try to do that. But you know, it's not always possible. When you have things like, okay, I'm importing something, which is a function from a module, right? And then you use it in your code, like, I don't know, if something function, then return the name plus something else. In this case, this function is not pure because you don't know what something is doing. You maybe in the future change the something function, and like you're creating a side effect because you're changing effectively how the output of the myName function is behaving. You don't want that. You don't want to have these side effects. Sometimes it's inevitable, but as much as possible, try to use pure functions, no side effects, and beautiful code. So how we're gonna start with Cypress? It's very easy, as usual. You know me, npm i-y for quickly bootstrapping your package JSON. Oh, npm init, sorry. For bootstrapping your package JSON, we got it. And now we just need one package, npm i Cypress. Cypress has recently released the version 10, which has a wizard, and it's fantastic. They've done a terrific job with this release, and I want to show you because it's really something. Let's give it a moment. Okay, we have it. Now I'm gonna create a new script called develop, and then the command is simply Cypress open. Let's run it. npm run develop. Cypress is gonna spawn, and we're gonna go through the wizard. Very easy. You don't have to know the folder structure or anything. Cypress is gonna take care of us. Cool. Yeah, we don't have any end-to-end testing configured. Click here. We are gonna see, oh, already folders have been created. Let's go. Files have been created. You don't have to deep dive now, but I do really suggest you go through the documentation and see, okay, what do I need in my config? You can record videos, you can take screenshots, you can do many things with it. Just go to the docs and go through the files created and see what you need, what you don't need. For now, just continue. Now we're just gonna tell us, okay, what browser do you want to use for testing? In my case, for now, just use Chrome, but you could use Edge, Electron, or just Firefox Server in my case. Cool. Now it's gonna spawn a new instance of Chrome, and it's gonna say, hey, you don't have any spec. Create your first spec. Cool. Let's gonna create a new file called spec.cijs, create it, and with some sample code. Do you want to run it? Sure. Run the first end-to-end test we have quote-unquote written. Okay, so this is how it looks like. You have a split pane here, and on the right side you have the actual website that Cypress is trying to test, and then on the left side you have, well, the spec name, what's going on, the steps it's taking, etc. Cool, let's go back to VS Code and see what exactly has happened in my code base. A new folder has appeared with 3 subfolders, end-to-end, fixtures, and support. As we said before, don't worry about support, don't worry about fixtures. This is for mocking APIs. For now, just focus on the end-to-end folder. And yeah, and this is the test that just was executed a few seconds ago via the the UI. Cool. So let's create first our first unit testing. Why not? For that, I'm gonna create a new utils folder, which is gonna hold all my utils, pure functions and stuff, and then new file called name. I want to create a pure function to manipulate names. So function is gonna export function, and then a format name, which is gonna accept an object, and then just return that as we had before. Let me add some JS doc. You don't have to. I just like it. It's fantastic for documentation. So this is an object. Okay, so far so good. Now it comes to the point where you have to choose your path. There are developers who like to do TDD, test-driven development, which means writing first your tests, writing first your use cases, and then writing your function. There are other developers who prefer to just first write their functions, their logic, and then create tests on top of that. I would suggest you to try both. If you haven't done ever TDD, try it. It's fun. And if not, just stick to your usual workflow, up to you. In my case today, I want to try some TDD. So first I'm going to create here, you could use folders like unit or whatever you want to call it. This is your stuff and you can do it as you please. So I'm going to create a new spec called name.ci.js. I'm going to first, I need to import my pure function to test it. So I import format name from, it was utils, single quote, double quotes, slash utils, and then it was name, right? Name, yeah. Okay. The way it works, I'm not gonna show you exactly, like step by step, how to find all the keywords for Cypress. Go to their docs, but basically you want to start with a describe, and then you can give it a name. So for instance, my name, and then do arrow function, and then in here we start writing our names, right? You can organize the code in many different ways. Let's just step forward to do this, and then let's try our first test. For instance, we're gonna pass like name and last name. Okay, then again, arrow function. Close this thing, perfect. I expect the format name with data to equal Ricard Torres, for instance. Okay, so I'm saying that using this function, the output of this function should equal Ricard Torres. Let's pass it some data, const data. We said that was going to be an object. I'm missing a comma here. An object. So let's do first name, Ricard, and then last name, Torres. Cool. Yeah, that's one thing. What else? Let's start another test. Let me just copy it over. Let's say you would have middle name. I don't have middle name, but we can fake it. So the second test is gonna be called name, middle name, and last name. We're gonna pass some middle name, fake, and I expect this thing to be Ricard fake Torres, right? Okay, then we have two tests. Let's save this file, go back to Cypress, go to the list of specs, and select my name spec. Okay, so the two tests has failed, obviously, because our pure function does nothing. It simply returns the object. Let's go back to Cypress. And what it says here, yeah, I expect object first name, last name, like this thing, to equal Ricard Torres. Of course, it does not equal. And the same thing for the other one. Okay, so let's now fix the first test. So let me put this thing right here on the side so we can see the test. And now go to the code and start writing your logic. So to fix the first test, we need to return a string. So you would say, we can do template strings, and then we say, okay, data dot first name, then space, because we're in a space right here, and then the last name. Data dot last name. I'm gonna use JS because I love it. So string data dot first name, and I love to document my functions. Middle name, last name, and we said that the middle name might be optional. It doesn't have anything to do with unit testing, but I love JS doc, so that's why I'm doing it. Okay, so now we're passing, we're returning a string, first name, last name. Let's save, go back to Cypress. Okay, so yeah, the first test has passed. yeah, I expect Ricard Torres to equal Ricard Torres. Perfect, golden. The second one is still not good enough. It has returned Ricard Torres, but it expects actually Ricard fake Torres. So let's fix that very quickly. We need middle name. So let me do middle name and const middle name equals, okay, if data, yeah, sure. So smart, autocomplete. Thank you, Copilot. So yeah, if I have middle name, please add a new string which has a space, printing the middle name, and if not, just empty string here. Cool, save, go back to Chrome, and now we have both tests. Green is fantastic. Cool. Now we've already written our first unit testing with our pure function. Let's move quickly to end-to-end testing. Let me close this thing here. We can reuse this one, why not? First, I'm gonna create a page with HTML. So let me create here a page. I'm gonna create a new file called index.html. You will need a local server. If you're on Mac, you probably can use Python. It's very, very easy. You can use simply, let me copy the command over for you. Right, here it is. Try it. I think I didn't have to install anything, but just give it a try. If not, you can use any npm local server. Yeah, just try it. In this case, when you run this command, python-m simple HTTP server is going to spawn a server on port 0000 port. Sorry, IP 000 port 8000. Let's open that. So 000 8000. This is the code base I had. Go to page, and then it's already loading my index HTML, even if you don't see it in the URL. Yeah, it's been loaded. Cool. Let's add some content. Very quickly, very proof of concept, just again, going fast. Let's create a form with an input field, an input text, which is gonna be called first name. And I wanna just try the interaction with the DOM, right? End-to-end in the end is testing interaction with the users, with your application, and how it reacts, DOM manipulation and stuff. Okay, I'm gonna have an H1 here. I want to show the name as we type it. So your name is, and then a span. This span will have an ID, like first name, and I missed a D. Okay, then we can have, I don't know, that's it. We're gonna do the JavaScript very quickly here, dirty and hardcoded. I like it. Okay, let's const the input first. This is document selector input. We can do that or be more specific. Sure, type text. Why not? In case there are more. Now input at event listener. We want to key up. Let me move this here. So we quite select also the span right here, and then we tell it to please auto function. So we tell it to on key up, please this event. Okay, so first name, text content, I love it. Get the target, get the value, set it on the first name element. Cool, save, go back to Chrome, I had here, refresh, and then I write here, Ricard, cool. So the logic is working, I see it works, but now let's of course automate this thing. How we would do that? We'll go back to the spec. We can reuse this, so let me simply rename this stuff, name, and then name is printed. We're gonna visit my URL. Let me copy it over. Yep. So you would pass your environment URL, your local URL, whatever it is in your development environment. Then we say we're gonna query the input. So it's gonna be first the input, for instance. So CI get, you can say input, and then you can say type Ricard Torres. Let's see what happens very quickly. Save, go back to Cypress, go back to the list of specs and select my spec. All right, so it has loaded my page. It has found the input and has typed Ricard Torres. So far, so good. But now let's actually test if my JavaScript logic that I've written before here, this quick and dirty thing is actually doing what it's supposed to do. Now, as you can see, we're not doing TDD anymore. We created first the logic, and now I'm creating the test, right? So two approaches. So ci.get first name, if I'm not mistaken, it was span, yeah, ID first name, cool. So first name, and then we say contains and Ricard Torres. Again, all the syntax you can find in the documentation, how to query stuff, how to check for values, attributes, things like that. Contains is gonna just try to find this string in the text content here. So save, go back to Chrome, and the test has already passed. So visit the page, type Ricard Torres, first name, and then yeah, the check contains also passes. How you would run these things, not on the UI, but just in the terminal, very easy. Let me close this, just open the package.json, close the thing here, and now create a new task called like test, why not? And then simply change open for run, and now npm run test. This is what you would run in your CI, or simply in your terminal. You don't want to click all the tests manually, right? But just automate the stuff. Cypress is a little bit slower than Jest in my testings. What I found is that it's a little bit slower, but it might be worth it for you to write again. Same syntax in both frameworks. Cool, so it's done. The test has already passed, and it has even recorded some videos, which you can turn off via configuration. But that's it. That's what I wanted to show you today, that using the code close to the same syntax, you can write end-to-end and unit testing using the same framework. You don't need to maintain two different code bases or two different frameworks or different solutions, but just a single one package, and you are done. Hope you liked it. Let me know what is your preferred end-to-end solution or unit testing solution in your projects. I am considering changing mine to full Cypress. Time will tell. Thank you so much. See you next time.